He was always felt like devastated that John, and he was looking forward for Junior to come out, as were we. But the problem is Junior got hit with the Curtis Lewa charges, and they kept him in jail. So Greg actually made a phone call with an FBI phone that he contacted the family of John Gotti Jr. saying, hey, you know, when is he getting out, and all of that. And they said they had some problems with him. So there was always this thing with Greg and others that it was always trying to get to the top and do whatever it was necessary. In fact, when I was out there with him, and we charged Arnold Scutieri, the acting boss, and Magali, he had Arnold Scutieri and Alphonse Siska, called Funzi, who was also a captain in the Gambinos. They shook down this very well-to-do guy, and they took his American Express black, not platinum, but black card. And there they went on a spending spree with their wives to Vegas. And then after like $20,000 being spent, they cut the card off. And we have it on tape because I was wearing the recorder. When they're calling in, they're saying, you tell this guy to reactivate his card. That's an embarrassment to me that this card was cut off. And these guys were like kids in the candy stores. Their wives were doing mani-pedis, hairdo. They were shopping in the malls of the casinos. It was just insane of the abuse that they did. But again, there goes Greg kissing up to the bosses so he would be okay with them, as opposed to a guy who sits quiet, and then when it comes to take somebody out, they say, well, what good is this guy? He doesn't put any money in my pocket. I mean, I remember we came up with a scheme of giving plasma TVs. And this actually happened, which I think you'll find it amazing. So instead of buying it, a plasma TV, I told him I fell off the back of the truck and my guys got it. So we give it to Arnold Scutieri. Now, Arnold Scutieri's home watching The Sopranos. Now, do you remember the scene where Robert Loggia with Feach Lamanna comes out of prison and things have changed and he's a little threatening to Tony Soprano because he was old school. He didn't like the way things were worked. Yeah. So they set him up by putting and storing these plasma TVs in the garage and then drop a dime to the probation officer and boom, he gets arrested. Again, Feach Lamanna. Well, what happened is Greg De Palma calls me in the morning. He says, I got to see you. I says, you're not going to believe what happened yesterday. I know it's true, but I got to ask you anyway. Is that television stolen? I go, what do you think, Greg? Well, I think I went to the store. Of course it's stolen. He goes, I knew it. Last night, I get a call from the boss. He's watching that damn Sopranos show, and they talking about these plasma TVs because he, too, was on parole. And he says, get this thing out of my house and get it out of there now. Wow. They yanked the TV out of the wall just for fear. So you talk about life imitating art. That was it. Wow. That was a perfect example. So, so this is, again, Greg immediately volunteers when I told him I had a couple that fell off the back of the truck. Let's give it to the boss. That's the way he always buttered up everybody. And he was a master at it. I mean, he would see you, Patrick, and he'd be thinking, how do I get in your pocket? How do I get in your business? And then he'll say, okay, he's looking for ways to exploit you. That's what he does with everybody, because that's the nature of the beast with these guys.
That's natural, dude. That's not just
it's a natural.
By the way, let me ask you a question.
Like a gift.
How do they get? Is there a training for that, or no? You just see somebody do it and you learn it and you pick it up. Meaning, is more caught or taught?
It's something I think growing up in these neighborhoods. These guys are not Boy Scouts, as you know. They're out there committing crimes as kids. Then they wind up going to jail. Well, jail is like going to Oxford to these guys. They're sitting around prison. They're talking about scams here, scams that they got in the future. There's always a way to make money, but it's in their DNA. I've gone out with Greg De Palma to the big man shop that they had in New York City called, anyway, it skips me. This beautiful store they had on Fifth Avenue. Right, we walk in, I'm looking at clothes, right? Here's Greg De Palma sticking ties, socks down his pants. I go, what are you doing? So he goes, what do you mean what I'm doing? I said, we're going to take a pinch over here. You're robbing. I'll buy them for you. Give them to me. He goes, nah, forget that. He goes, Jackie, this is what we do. This is who I am. So it's their DNA. They are thieves. They are criminals, and they could be putting on their fedoras. They could be pious men with fedoras and 45s, but they're nothing but criminals. That's all they are.
Interesting.
And they're looking to get in people's pocket without any remorse.
You think that can ever change with them? You think that part can ever change?
No, and I think I'm probably the only guy who feels that the mafia is going to come back. And I'll tell you why. In the FBI, the investigative priorities of organized crime it's so low. I mean, right now we have terrorism, cyber, foreign counterintelligence. It's not even in the top 10 where when I was working it, we were in the top 10. Now, what happened is they consolidated 5 squads into 3 squads, and they got rid of a lot of guys on the task force. So what do you think is going on if there's nobody there to pursue these guys?
Yeah.
They're doing what they're supposed to be. They're a criminal secret society. They've crawled back under the rocks, and they're making their moves in a way knowing that they're not being looked at simply because we don't have the manpower to do it.
That's interesting for you to say that they could be coming back. So because, Merlino was in something recently with the election 4 weeks ago that his name came up, that he may have been involved in the scandal of elections. And, Mob's been involved with elections for God knows how many years, since Dewey days.
Yes,
you can go
true.
way back with elections. But, so you're saying it's in their DNA. You don't think it can change. So you don't think one of these things about, hey, I'm a changed man right now. I don't have the same tendency as of trying to get money out of your pocket and I'm living a straight life. You think it's something that will never, ever go away once they're in it for 20, 30, 40 years? Listen,
first of all, I commend you for the hosts, the guests that you've had on your shows. I mean, you've had some serious heavyweight guys. I mean, Sammy the Bull, come on. He's a bad guy, period. 19 murders. He's a tough guy on the street. You've had Phil Leonetti, another one. These are serious guys. Now, have they changed or are they capable of changing? I don't know. It's if what's the old saying? You can't change the spot of a leopard. Are you going to change this? Sammy had his shot to be changed, and then he went into ecstasy and he got collared. So I don't know. I hope that they see their light to see whether it's possible. But would you want to be their next door neighbor?